I'd like to call the May 1st, 2024 Board of Selectmen's meeting to order at 6:30. Jim, do we have a need for non-public?
We do 4 items under real estate.
Real estate?
Yep.
Okay. All righty. Consider the minutes, the first set of minutes, April 1, 2024. Any corrections, changes?
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Brad, seconded by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next set of minutes, April 10th, 2024. Does anybody have any corrections or concerns?
Yes, Linda.
Yep.
Page 11, the second reference to Mr. Deshaies, remove the S in tanks. We only have one CO2 tank there.
Okay. I have one on page 9, top of the page, Mrs. Murray, the end of that second sentence, it should say the Friends of Pop Whalen.
Yep.
Do I hear any other corrections? Can I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of April 10th with amendments.
Do I have
Second.
Okay. Is that Paul?
Yep.
Okay. I have Dave first, Paul second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That passed. All righty, we'll start with our public hearings. First one is the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 1, 2024 at approximately 6:30 p.m. at the Great Hall Town Hall, 84 South Main Street, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, to consider a temporary event permit for the Anchor Mission, Inc., Justin Marbury, to host Wolfeboro Area Interchurch National Day of Prayer Gathering in Cape Park on May 2nd, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., permit 2024-29. And I'll open up the public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this event? All right, board members, do you want to go on? This is tomorrow. We've had this event before.
Yep.
What's your pleasure?
I'll make a motion that we approve the temporary event
Well, let me
permit.
close the public hearing.
Okay.
If we're okay, I'll close the public hearing. Dave?
I'll make a motion, we approve a temporary event permit for Anchored Mission, Inc., Justin Mayberry, to host Wolfeboro Area Interchurch National Day of Prayer Gathering at Cape Park on May 2nd, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Brian, I got a second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We'll move on. I'll open up the next public hearing, the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 1, 2024 at approximately 6:30 p.m. at the Great Hall Town Hall, 84 South Main Street, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, to consider a temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro Park and Rec Department to hold the 15th annual Stacy Burns 5K at Carpenter Elementary School on May 11th, 2024, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., permit 2024-30. Is there anybody who'd like to speak to this event?
Hi, Christine Collins from Parks and Recreation. This event is the 15th annual. We've been collaborating with the Stacy Burns fundraising group over the years, and it's a great event. They have a scholarship that goes to, I believe, someone in a nursing program through Kingswood High School. And it starts at Carpenter School, goes all the way almost to Crescent Lake, and then turns around and comes back. We have a walkers division and a runners division. You can register day of as well, and the proceeds go towards that scholarship.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this temporary event permit? Hearing and seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, is there anything you'd like to talk about? Any questions? Hearing none, can I have a motion?
Move to approve a temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro Parks and Recreation Department to host the 15th Annual Stacy Burns 5K at Carpenter School on May 11, 2024, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., permit number 2024-30.
And I have a motion by Brian, second by Paul. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Right. I'll open up the next public hearing, the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 1st, 2024, at approximately 6:30 p.m. at the Great Hall Town Hall, 84 South Main Street, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, to consider a temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro Park and Rec Department to host Bike and Walk Day on May 10th, 2024, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., Cape Park, Huggins Hospital, permit 2024-31.
It is 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., not p.m., in case
Oh,
we...
excuse me. Yep, AM, yep.
Okay, perfect. So this is an event, we celebrate National Bike and Walk Day. In Wolfeboro, we make our own date, so we always do it the second Friday in May, so we have a consistent date. And so we just, you can register to celebrate with us and have your whole crew walk, and we have a perpetual plaque that we post up at the rec. We have 2 stations. We have one over by Cape Park, and we have one in front of the hospital, and it's a collaboration with Huggins Hospital. They help run that station, and we run the one at Cape Park. We offer snacks and just cheer people on for walking or riding their bike to work or school that day. And it's a great celebration, so.
Hey, thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this temporary event permit? Seeing, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members?
Move to approve a temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro Parks and Rec Department to host Bike and Walk Day on May 10, 2024, from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. at Cape Park and Huggins Hospital, permit number 2024-31.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by Brian, a second by Brad. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. I'll open up the next public hearing is the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to host a public hearing on Wednesday, May 1st, 2024 at approximately 6:30 p.m. at the Great Hall Town Hall, 84 South Main Street, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, to consider a temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro Park and Recreation Department to host the annual Arbor Day celebration on May 3rd, 2024 from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. at the Foss Field Complex, permit 2024-32. Is there anybody like to speak to that?
So it's 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., just 1 hour. So this is an event we've been doing to celebrate Arbor Day. Again, we pick our date, so we always celebrate the first Friday in May. We collaborate with the Crescent Lake School, some of the classes there. They come over, read the proclamation, and we plant a tree. This year, we actually are planting a couple trees. I think actually we're planting 3 trees, but one of them is the Conservation Committee is part of that, so we're still talking about where that tree is going. But the one we're doing with the children will be at Foss Field, and we have another one going at the end of Bridge Falls Path. So I just want to say that we are a Tree City USA. This is our 42nd year. I know there was just some discussion about how we were taking trees down and not planting them, and this is one day that we definitely are planting trees. We are working on a plan for the future of planting more trees, but in some situations over at Foss Field where we took a lot of them down, we have to figure out how to get rid of those roots so we can't plant them exactly in the same spot. So we're trying to find different spots and come up with a game plan for that. So it's a great event if you just want to come celebrate being a Tree City USA and cheer on the kids who are helping plant trees. Our tree warden, Kirk Titus, will be there along with
I think that's what
who is the tree company?
Bartlett.
Bartlett Tree, yes. They come and their tree warden, their tree expert, arborist, is there to help us, discuss trees, explain what kind of trees we're planting, and discussing with the kids how to take care of trees and the importance of them. So it's a great celebration. So we hope to see you there. We will be on the side by the tennis courts over at Foss Field, because I know sometimes it's a big area.
Thank you. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this temporary event permit? Hearing, seeing none. Board members, any comments, questions? If not, can I have a motion?
I've been down the last 2 years, and it's great seeing the kids from the school there doing something outside. Last 2 times, I think it's been a nice day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd like to move to issue a temporary event permit for the Wolfeboro Parks and Recreation Department to host the annual Arbor Day celebration on May 3rd, 2024, from 10 a.m. till 11 a.m. at Foss Field Complex. Permit number 2024-32, plant some wonderful trees.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Brian, a second by Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All righty. Here we go with the last one. I'll open up the public hearing. The Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 1st, 2024 at approximately 6:30 p.m. at the Great Hall, Town Hall, 84 South Main Street, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, to consider a temporary event permit for the All Saints Church to host the annual All Saints Church Fair on July 20th, 2024, from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at 258 South Main Street, permit 2024-33. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak? Would you state your name for the record?
Hi, I'm Susan Christmas, and I'm a member of the All Saints Church, and we just ask that you allow this permit to go through. It's a fundraiser for many different organizations throughout the community, and and it's a fun event. It is a nice event, and a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into it, so appreciate your effort. You're allowing us to do it.
Okay. Is there anybody else in the audience who'd like to speak to this temporary event permit? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Board members, any comments, questions? If not, can I have a motion?
Move to issue a temporary event permit for the All Saints Church to host the annual All Saints Church Summer Fair on July 20th, 2024, from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 a.m. 1:30 a.m.?
Yeah,
1:30
I just
p.m.
put PM, yeah.
Yeah, at 258 South Main Street, permit number 2024-33. How many years has this been? 62nd year for the event.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Brian, a second by Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All righty. Moving on, we have another public hearing. This one is on alcoholic beverages. Is the Wolfeboro Board of I guess this is a public hearing, right?
Correct.
It doesn't say public hearing. All right.
Correct.
It is the Town of Wolf Select Board will conduct a public hearing in accordance with New Hampshire NHRSA 41:14-B on May 1st, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. at Wolfeboro Town Hall, Great Hall, 9 Union Street, Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, to accept public input on the proposed ordinance amendments to Chapter 5, Alcoholic Beverage 5-1, Consumption on Town Property, Violations and Penalties, Permitting of Beer and Wine Use on Town Property, 5.2.A, Sale beer and wine for consumption in town buildings and on town premises as permitted in the subsection E below. No other alcohol beverage shall be permitted to be sold or consumed. 5.2.E4, Cape Park, Town Park, Dockside, to include tax map 217-094, permit between July 1 through April, subject to a temporary event permit, town docks excluded. 5.2.E6. This is new language reflecting Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center. See update application. 5.2.G, this clarifies the application process in a chronological order of events, includes the addition of the Director of Operations for the Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center and the Abenaki Ski Lodge. 5.2. I think that's I. Reflects the corrections of an RSA citation. 5.2.K, no actions required. 5.2.L, new language reflecting the Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center. We will have reached out to Primex, the insurance required, which are currently $1 million, $2 million, as noted on the application. Is there anybody who wants to speak to this public hearing on this ordinance change? Jim, is there?
So this came in front of you, as you may remember the update to the Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center involves the addition of off-season programming, and one of the items that was discussed was the ability to have alcoholic beverages served at that location. The major substantive changes here are that we identified the Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center. We identified that it's only beer and wine. There's to be no other alcoholic beverages. We clarified a couple of RSA citations. And we also added in that when they submit a temporary event permit, that they need to submit a site plan that outlines, site or floor plan, that outlines the maximum number of patrons that would be within that area. Regarding the dockside Cape Park, Town Park area, we just put the tax map number in there to make it clear, and we did make it clear that the docks are excluded from that area because we don't want that type of event taking place on the docks. We clarified that specifically at the Pop Whalen Arena that alcoholic permits would not be considered during youth events as requested by the board, and this would go in front of all department heads for review. And then we have got an update to the application that adds the Pop Whalen Ice and Art Center. And I believe we've got one clarification that we want to add to this application. It originally had to exclude for the Pop Whalen Arena commercial and religious organizations. I do believe we want to remove that. Christine's not sure how that got added in. It appears it was in there in 2016, but it should probably be removed. That summarizes the changes that are being proposed. Take input from the board, and then this would come back in front of you for a second hearing on the 15th, at which point you would vote to approve or not.
Yeah, and the number 4, it's the where we remove the religious and commercial is on the rental agreement and waiver. It's on the second page of that, and that's where you're going to cross that out.
Correct.
Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this public hearing? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. At this point, we don't take any vote. Am I correct, Jim?
That's correct. If you guys want to have discussion about it, that would be great to get input, but no vote.
Does anybody have any comments, questions? We're all okay?
Not at this time.
All righty, so we'll go on and we'll see it again at the next meeting. All righty. Next item is the bulk vote. We have A, the weekly manifest, April 19th, $410,005.42. April 24th, 2024, $334,000. $334,276.98. We have property tax credits and exemptions. We have 4 approvals, 1 denial. The denial didn't meet the criteria. Then we have property tax refunds and abatement. We have 2 that we are accepting and 2 that we are denying. We have tax levies and 2024 exempt status correspondence, the Lakes Region Conservation Trust. Is there any comments or questions from the board?
Question.
Yep.
Just, maybe I misheard. Item C, did you say there were 2 coming in for approval and 2 for denial?
Yep. If you've gotten the revised agenda.
I'm looking at the old one. My apologies.
Yep.
And Linda, I need to abstain from the vote on the bulk vote.
Well, why don't we remove the one item you need to abstain on? And I believe it's number 1 on the property tax refund and rebate. It's 18 Governor Wentworth Highway. Is that the right one you will need
Yeah,
to?
why would you want to remove it?
That's usually we do. If you wanted to abstain from the whole thing, you can.
I'll just abstain
Okay.
from it.
All righty. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the bulk vote A through E.
Second.
Brad, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we have 1 abstention. That's Brian.
Yep.
Okay. Next item are appointments. First one is, let's see, James Riley to the Economic Development Committee. His term will end in March 2026. And I do not see James Riley there. Board members, any comments or concerns?
Mr. Riley has come to a couple EDC meetings already, and he's added a lot of value to the meetings. He's well-known in the community from his different positions as principal and vice principal, and now he's second headmaster at Brewster. I think he brings a lot of value, and he brings a Brewster perspective to the EDC.
Do you have a motion, Brian?
Motion to approve James Riley appointed to the EDC.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Dave? Got a motion by Brian, second by Dave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we'll move on. The next one is Marshall Goldberg. It is the Cable Franchise Committee, and it will be an appointment through March 2025. Is anybody here? I don't see him. Does anybody have any comments, questions?
What are you looking at me?
Hearing none, does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve Marshall Goldberg, whose term would expire in March of 2025, to the Cable Franchise Committee.
Second.
Motion by Paul, second by Brian. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Peter Snyder, also for the Cable Franchise Committee for March, his term will expire March 2025. Any comments, questions?
I'll move to approve Peter Schneider, the Cable Franchise Committee, whose term will expire March of 2025.
Second.
Okay, motion by Paul, second by Brian. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right,
Bless you, dear.
we're moving on. Okay, we're going to start new business. The first item is Arbor Day Proclamation 2024. Wolfeboro is a Tree City, USA, and Paul has volunteered to read the proclamation.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Whereas in 1872, Julius Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first celebrated in the state of Nebraska on April 10, 1872, more than 1 million trees were planted throughout the state, and Arbor Day is now celebrated throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs when planted correctly around our homes, moderate the outdoor temperature, clean the air, consume carbon dioxide, and produce oxygen, provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they're planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, and whereas Wolfeboro has been recognized as Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for 41 consecutive years and desires to continue its tree planting practices, and whereas trees for planting have been donated by Bartlett Tree and Wolfeboro Parks and Recreation, therefore, we, the Board of Selectmen of Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, do hereby proclaim March 3rd, 2024 as Arbor Day in the town of Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support our efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And further, we urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Dated this first day of May, 2024.
Okay, and we will sign that after the meeting. Thank you, Paul. Next item on the agenda is a 2024 barge landing permit for Ambrose Marina Construction. Anybody here? No. Any questions or concerns? It looks to me as if their insurance is going to end the end of June, and we need to have an updated insurance policy when they get that. Does anybody have any questions? If not, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2024 barge landing permit for Ambrose Marine Construction.
Second.
I got a motion by Brad, second by Brian, and we're going to also put in that motion the updated insurance.
Subject to
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We'll move on. This next one is New Hampshire DOT Route 28 Upgrade Project Electrolyze Relocation and Cost. I'll hand this over to you, Jim.
Yeah, so as you're well aware, we're still in the design process of the South Main Street Route 28 project. This is separate from the work that's happening out there right now relative to the water lines. A couple, maybe a month ago now, the team, which consisted of Barry, Steve Randall, led by Tavis, and myself, met with the state, and there was discussion about the need to relocate utilities. One of the original plans had these utilities being contemplated to be placed underground. That's not going to be taking place in this project. So as a result, we had a conversation with DOT, which they said, look, before we come in and talk with the board again, which they want to do on June the 5th, I believe it is, MED should probably give a presentation on the relocation of the utilities for temporary purposes and then the relocation to their permanent home. So Barry is here this evening, again, to speak on behalf of this project and what it'll take MED to relocate the utilities to do the Route 28 project. Barry?
Yes, thank you, Jim. Barry Muccio, Wolfeboro Electric Department. So, as Jim said, we met with DOT, probably our first real formal meeting with them regarding the utilities about a month ago, sometime in March. And at that time, they informed us one of their criteria of this build was going to be that they always had to maintain two-way traffic on South Main Street. To pull that off, that was going to mean they needed to basically add a temporary travel lane throughout the whole 1.5 miles. And we all know what the traffic can be like if you don't have two-way traffic. So I certainly understood their point. Unfortunately, that brings the utility poles into play when they add another 25, 30 feet of traveled way, be it on a temporary easement, which is their plan to try to get temporary easements for construction. They came to us and they said, you have 80 poles down through that 1.5 miles from basically Pleasant Valley intersection to Pickering Corner. This happens to be just half of it. It's tough to see.
Yeah.
Each one of those colors represents a different utility and every other thing, but I think the justice, the cost is what we're here to talk about tonight. So they told us, yeah, you're going to have to relocate all 80 poles to accommodate this traveled way on one side or other of what's there existing. And once you relocate those 80 poles and we finish on this side of the road, you're going to have to relocate those 80 poles again to the other side of the road to their permanent location so that we can work on the side of the road to where the temporary pole line is. So, I mean, as you can imagine, I think all of us were like, what? Twice? I mean, to pull this off, we basically have to construct a redundant line all the way down through. We have to buy all new transformers, every new pole, because when we cut people over from one system to the other, we can't have a 3-week outage to do that. So we're duplicating what's out there now, cutting all the people over to the new system, and then we have to again build it again on the other side of the road. Well, we really didn't think that was a feasible operation, and I'm not so sure that it might have to be done in certain areas there. So they kind of gave us that was worst case scenario where they came to us. And they gave us this blank slate, basically, this plan, and they said, well, we know where we want to be. We know where the sidewalks are. You tell us where you can go. They weren't real specific about where you can be, but you tell us where you think you can move and be out of our way. And unfortunately, for a lot of that to happen, our first thing was, we got to try to do this in one move. We have to move once into a permanent location because the costs and the hassle and all the things associated with traffic would be just astronomical. Because the one thing we got to think about is when we're doing the utility work, we can't keep 2 lanes open. The temporary lane's not going to be constructed yet. So we have to do all our work with 1-lane traffic.
Oh, my.
So we're sort of defeating the purpose of always maintaining 2 lanes. Because they're not going to start until we're all moved. So we took their plan. We had some fun discussions at the shop, and we also sent it off to our engineer, Alan Rice from PLM. I think you've all met Alan over the years. And we came up with a methodology by which we can move some poles back 10 feet in areas. We can cross the road in some different places to try to get out of their construction zone. Probably 80% of it, I think, is feasible. We have not received their feedback. Okay? So I think that's why I'm here tonight, to just sort of tell you what that cost would be. And so that one-time move, the cost is $1.23 million. Certainly less than I thought up front. I thought we were going to be over $2 million when this first came to me. If we had to move twice, it wouldn't necessarily double, because we'd have already bought the transformers and we could use the ones from the first move, but it would probably at least be 3/4 as much. It'd be in the $2.1 million range, I'm thinking. If we had to do the work at night, so the traffic wasn't such a big deal, it's probably going to add obviously a premium to that. It would probably be maybe $2.5 million if we had to do all night work, if we could find somebody that would do that. So this is the plan, and you can't, it's tough, like I said, in this. The dotted yellow line here sort of highlights where we're proposing to move. Most of this is in back of where we are now, about 10 feet in that section. We're going to cross a little, instead of crossing by the high school where we do now up here, We're going to cross further down the road. We feel there's more room on the other side of the road by the golf course. And there's another slide, Jim. I don't know if you can hit the next one as we go further down. No. Is there one more?
Yeah, there should be. I have it in here.
Second, this one goes down to Weston Auto.
Yeah, it should be all the way down to
No,
Pickering Corner.
Those were the two that I got.
this is Pickering.
There's only one?
No, there's, this one goes to Pickering.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we have it.
Well, anyways, that looks like the same slide twice, but
Yep.
I think you guys get the idea is we were able to plot locations where we think it'll work. Some of them are going to be on private property, which means we're going to have to get easements. DOT is not going to help us with permanent easements. They're only working on their temporary easements, and they do not do utility easements. It's going to be on us to pull those off. There will be some anchors and guys that are going to be on private properties. And I hate to speak of this tonight, we got Arbor Day talk, but because we're going to be moving back 10 feet, there's going to be substantial trimming required to pull it off as well. And I know there's talk of replanting in future warrant articles, so I think that's probably going to be very important considering what that corridor may look like when this project is done, if it comes to fruition. They're coming here on June 5th. Is that the day, Jim? Yeah, they're going to come here. We're going to be with them. We're going to give them time to absorb what we have here for feedback. And one way or another, if we decide to move forward, which I think we do need to continue moving forward, this is proposed for 2027, we're going to have to wedge this into our CIP 10-year CIP plan, obviously, which it doesn't exist at all now. So we're going to bump some things, or we're going to wedge this in somewhere, or beg, borrow, and steal. But we have a budget which we can make this work. We may have to delay some other things in the process. But this price here, I think we can make work. The over 2 million would be tough, I think, to do it with our regular fund balance without going out and loaning. I'm open for questions.
Paul?
Barry, it's always great to see you.
Yeah, yes. I used to be the bearer of good news. In fact, Steve used to tell me, tell me that, and he didn't want to follow me.
It's just.
You're looking better, bud.
It's always delightful to see you.
Yeah, always bad news now.
So I think you may have answered the first question. This is purportedly would come out of the enterprise fund?
I would propose that we would take it out of the existing fund balance of the unrestricted fund balance of the electric department.
And then the second question is, who's picking up the tab for the, how many other carriers you got sitting on the infrastructure?
That's interesting, but it's all on them. It's on each party, in fact.
But they have to line up to your schedule?
Yeah. Unfortunately, when you're in a DOT right-of-way, you're basically there at their will. So if they want us to move, we have to move, and that's we've done that before. Okay. Nothing to this extent.
So we're not going to be purportedly on the, pardon the pun, hook for their costs, the carrier's costs. They have to move.
And as part of their attachment, they recognize that they are basically an attachee in a.
But you're going to have to do the project management of them, not DOT.
We are going to have to, right. We're going to have to do the pole design, the project management. Oh. They will basically come in and follow our design unless they have any real heartbreak, and we may have to change some things to accommodate phone, because the phone company is 50% owners of this.
I know.
But.
And if I could, my last question is, it's clear there's going to be some lumber taken out of there. Who's going to do the replanting, and whose budget is that going to come out of?
Well, we don't have a budget at this point in the electric department. There is not a budget in that number that I just presented you for replanting, but we have been carrying that CIP project every year, well, for the last 2 years for planting. That may need to be escalated a bit to cover the required replanting.
So you're going to think about what the escalation factor needs to be?
I'm never in the tree planting business. It sort of
somebody's going
conflicts
to have
with
to
what I
plant some
do.
trees because we're tearing a bunch of them up.
But I think that's a discussion we all need to have, a town-wide or a board-wide, or you know, as well as how that's going to be. You're trying to get me to plant trees, aren't you?
I am.
Yeah, I know where you're coming from.
Brian?
So I have a couple quick questions. Any upgrades done to that system when you're moving it? Or is everything already been upgraded and it's where it needs to be?
You know, it's unfortunate, but we're only at midstream of its lifespan. That was all done in 2003, 2004, so we're like 20 years deep of a 40-year, you know, expected. So that's kind of, the timing isn't the best for us, but I mean, would it be, yeah, it would be nice to have poles that are 20 years newer down through there. Sure. It's not required, though. You know, it's nothing. It's not going to help us with redundancy or, you know, duplication of.
Will we have more crossings across the street under your new plan?
No, the crossings will be relocated a bit from where they are now, and that was sort of at the directive of our DOT friends. I know this one by the high school. They had a major problem with that, with the crossing that's right after the high school. They have a major issue with this one. For whatever reason, it doesn't fit into their scheme. What I really hope to do is we can get our stuff behind the sidewalks. Where we aren't behind the sidewalks, if we can get behind the sidewalks, I think that keeps us in a neutral zone for a number of years. It's out of the road, you know, the roadway, so to speak. So whatever happens in the roadway after that, we're sort of clear of it. But.
And then one real last tough question. When you have to go onto someone's private property and they dig their heels in and say no.
You know, I've been doing this for a number of years and I've had all kinds of people say no to me. I've been pretty successful with a lot of them too. We have to redesign. We're not going to get into a situation where we get into eminent domain or anything. That's not my intent. We'll generally work around whatever we need to do. If we got to redesign, we may have to cross on one side or the other. But we have not typically purchased easements, and I know DOT will not purchase permanent easements for us. So we got to somehow
just make it work.
We got to, yeah, if we have to sweeten the deal with the tree or something here or there, trees, I don't know. I've been pretty lucky with that over the years. I don't know. But we're at the mercy of those people. I really wouldn't be up for doing anything other than that. So that's sort of where we're at right now. I guess I don't know if I'm really expecting you to give me any information besides proceed or not. I think we are proceeding, I would assume.
Yeah, let me just make sure that I don't have any. Dave, do you have anything to say? Brad?
I guess just one, Barry. That 1.23 million you came up with for this budget here, in your eyes, that's probably the best case scenario, I would assume. And if DOT comes back with changes, it's apt to go up a little, go up from there.
So moving twice is the worst case scenario. This is the best case scenario for us. I would assume there's going to be a compromise in the middle somewhere. We're moving 70 poles. We're not moving 80, so we're keeping 10, but it's a work in progress. And as I spoke with the gentleman from DOT this morning, he said, this will give us a baseline. We know what you want. We know what we want. This will give us something to work on. So I think that would be how I leave it. It gives us something to work with. And then we'll deal with each pole location accordingly.
In my feeling, I think, give a little history. It was in 2010 that the town put up $99,000 to do design of this right-of-way coming down before DOT had really gotten into it. It helped us get on that 10-year plan. We did a number of public hearings. We had huge number of people turn out and talk about how they wanted the different areas to be designed. The town had a Route 28 committee, and Paul, you were on it with me. We met for probably a year or so and came up with a report, gave that report to the Board of Selectmen, and sent it out to New Hampshire DOT. So the town has put a lot of time, energy, money into this, and I'm with you, Barry. I think we have to go on. It's the gateway into our community, and it's important. What I find interesting, I think we were talking about 2022, 2024 for construction. Right. And I kept on saying to him, well, when do I need to put money in the budget? When do I need to? He kept on saying waiting. Now we're at 2027. And so I wonder also, and I'll ask that when they come, how much money they have. Because every year we go down the line, the amount of money they have becomes smaller and smaller and smaller just because of inflation.
Well, right. And it gets scoped down. I mean, originally the theory of the case was we were going to the Alton Town line, right? Correct. And then it was we were going to back up to Weston Auto Body, and then it was
and now we're up to
Pleasant Valley Road.
Valley. Yeah.
And we did the Center Street on a municipally managed. That was already, it was supposed to go out to Wolfeboro Falls.
The scope goes down and the prices go down. This is a fun thing to look at.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's tough for us to sit here and go, oh, what are you doing to it? I mean, this is a project we fought for as a community.
Yep.
We've got it on the list. We've got it jumped up.
Yep.
So we've got to continue rolling with it.
Yep.
It kind of hit fast, I guess, but the reality is, yeah, okay, 3 years away, it's not really that far. We're going to have to prep. The time we relocate everything is probably going to be 2-3 years.
Well, we were kind of carrying $2 million, and the $2 million was what we were going to do with our drainage and our sidewalks, and that's not even in here.
It is not.
So that is also, we have sidewalks and drainage.
And now we got trees to plant.
And we did carry that in the CIP.
We need trees to plant. Barry will help us out there. Can I, Madam Chairman, can I ask one last question?
Sure.
Are you going to make them those hickories out there taller, or are they going to be? You're going to make the poles taller?
At this time, 45-foot poles is probably going to be the norm, and a lot of those are 40s now. So when you're in a congested area now, because since 2003, we've added 2 more utilities out here on our poles.
Well, I'm asking you, you're going to go higher.
That much space is gone, so everything will probably be 45 Class 2 poles.
Okay. So for reference, that a 45-foot pole is what you planted up on North Main Street, right? Are those 45s?
Yeah, most of those are 40s. Anytime you see an intersection of a road or a roadway, that's going to be a 45.
Okay, good.
But I'm assuming all of these will be 45s.
So when you take these 40s out, can you use them on the back roads, or are they just shot?
Yeah, 20 years old, I just wouldn't do it. Yeah, and then we won't get the phone company to buy into a 20-year pole.
Okay.
So.
Now,
we may be able to recoup some money from the phone company because we bill them half of the cost, but it's not going to be money we see during the project. So,
Can they be used for marine pilings?
Good idea for Smith River.
Or anywhere.
These poles
are dirty.
I wouldn't go with these poles that are there now are all penta-treated poles. These are not going to be poles you want to have near the water.
Good idea, though.
All right. Any other questions?
Come on up, Steve.
So I can answer some of your questions. So right now they have 10 million to do. That's DOT's contribution to this. Our last meeting we had in March was estimated construction is at 14 right now.
So
that doesn't include Barry's stuff.
So they're saying to do the project's 14. They have 10. Are you saying 4 is on us?
4 is on us. Plus Barry.
Plus, yeah, I understand, Barry. This is that drainage and sidewalk.
The drainage, sidewalk, our infrastructure part of that. And now they're still doing some designs, obviously. We still have to kind of pick a design, but that's the working number right now based on I think that's one treatment pond, and that is, they have the 10 million.
Is it our treatment pond? I thought it was their water.
Their water.
It's there. Well, I'm calling it ours because I figure that's where it'll end up being, but yes.
Okay.
Just to answer some of those questions before they get here.
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably 10 years ago, we were looking at 2 million.
Right.
Right. You know, if we're looking probably now closer to a 28 construction season, so we're still another 4 years away
Okay.
from it.
Madam Chairman?
Well,
Yep. Question? Steve? How you doing, Steve?
Fantastic.
You're awesome. When does the pencils go down on the design so that we can take a look at, what we're buying into? The last time I checked in, which was, a year or so ago, we were still having a conversation about bout rounds and all that kind of fun stuff. So when do we, here's the piece of paper, pencils are down, this is what we're building.
It's my understanding that that's why they're coming here next month, is to try to get
Put the pencils down on it?
What are we doing? Are we doing a roundabout? Are we doing lines? Are we doing nothing? And then once that decision is made, then it's time to.
So for people out there, I mean, this is probably important for people to get involved or weigh in on this, because this is going to involve yes or no on roundabouts. If so, what type? Parking, lights, rapid flashing beacons. What are those all things?
We did some of that. There's a survey that went out, and I've not ever heard the answer on what the survey was. We stopped. We ran a public hearing. They ran a public hearing. And we looked at all the options, and they wanted a survey, and we did it in September, and I haven't heard the results of that survey. Oh, here comes the next one.
Here comes the next witness.
Hand on the Bible. So yes, the original goal a couple of months ago was to come to the Board of Selectmen May 1st and see if the board, that's today, to see if the Board of Selectmen would make a definitive call on, yes, this is the direction we want the final design to go down. Then they played the utility card, so that moved off to June 1st.
The Barry card.
The Barry card, to find out what would it cost. So in realistic terms, on June 1st, the DOT, it's not final design. They don't want to actually step into final design until they have some consensus from the selectmen as to what direction Wolfeboro wants to proceed.
Do you have the answer of the surveys for all the people put in? Because that's what we were waiting for.
The answer is no. I haven't seen the updated surveys.
Okay.
What I understand is the extension of the survey time did not change DOT's recommendation.
Ah, okay.
So,
Okay.
Can you say that again? What?
even though the survey was extended, the survey results that came in the extended period did not change the ultimate recommendation of DOT for what the best solution was. So their recommendation, I'll let them speak to it on June 1st, but their recommendation right now is the micro roundabout at McManus and the roundabout at Pickering Corner, or the reduced roundabout, not the one that moves everything, but the smaller. So the idea of coming here tonight was to say, as Steve pointed out, and I'm going to go backwards, DOT has 10. We know the project with 2 roundabouts is roughly 14 with the sidewalks and the stormwater, plus 1.3 to 2.1. If the selectmen want to say, no, we cannot handle a $6 million lift in 28, 29, whenever that happens, speak your piece, and they will not come for a determination on June 1st. If the selectmen are okay, understanding that it's going to be somewhere between 4 and 6 or 5 and 6 or 5 and 6.5, whatever it is, then they are going to be looking for a decision as to what the recommendation is of the selectmen for what the project is. So Barry mentioned a very key thing, which was worst case scenario. Yep. DOT is looking for the worst case scenario so they go through NEPA once. It may be that all poles don't have to move. It may be that only 60 of the 70 have to move, or maybe it's 75. What they don't want to do is go in thinking 4 poles have to move, get so far into development, and then realize 70 have to move, because then we stop the whole process, go back through NEPA, reinvestigate all of the historic properties, all of the everything. They want to go to NEPA with the worst-case scenario, and then they will work, as I understand it, through the process to come up with the least impactful design in order to further what the selectmen decide is the course of action for the town. So all of the rapid flashing beacons, crosswalk locations, all of that stuff is not yet known and isn't something you're expected to answer for on the 1st. But they are going to be looking for, are the selectmen supportive of 2 roundabouts, understanding it might modify down? Are the selectmen looking for modified striping? And they can work down from there, that sort of thing.
Okay, and I would hope that you'd ask him to bring us the numbers on the surveys.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is what's important, because that gives us the
My
feed.
solemn vow to you is I've been hitting Jason Ayotte, copy paste, what are the results for a long time.
And you tell him the Board of Selectmen is not going to do anything until he brings that to us.
Correct.
Because that's really, we want to know what the public wants us to do.
Correct.
Anybody else, any other questions? Have we beat this
Beat this one
for
like,
now?
beat this one like
Thank
a drum.
Absolutely.
All righty.
Hey, nice seeing you guys.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is permission to use 3 parking spaces evening Bailey's Bubble. What I did have included in the packet was our votes from last year and some of the conversation. Deb, do you want to come on up and state your name and give us a explanation?
Good evening. My name is Deb Skelly, and I own Bailey's Bubble, which is an ice cream shop downtown. And we are asking for permission to use 3 parking spaces that are directly in front of the bubble. They would be adjacent to a handicap spot, which normally in the evening isn't used too much, so it clears that corner, which is what I watch all night long to try and keep not only my customers safe, but drivers safe, so that they don't come around that corner too quickly. And also for people who are not my customers, but people who are walking downtown, maybe going to the park or across the street to get an ice cream, so they can go on the sidewalk and go through Bailey's Bubble and keep my customers down in the parking spaces.
Thank you.
And it would be in the evening, and I used to be able to say that nobody is open past 5:30, but now we have the 4 Cellars down there. So that is open, but that is the only other business that's open. So really, parking on Railroad Ave is not an issue in the evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Board members, anybody have any comments or concerns?
Yeah, I'll just go by my comments from last year, to reiterate them, that in the past this has worked very well for Bailey's Bubble. It's, a large crowd does gather there. If we didn't have those spaces open, they would be out in the street. People trying to walk through, as Deb said, would be walking out around, and you'd have a lot more conflicts out in the street between pedestrians and vehicles. So doing this, I think, is a very good idea. It's worked well. And just about all the other businesses, as Deb said, other than 4 Cellars is closed. So I'm supportive of this.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I'm the same place as you are. I think for safety, there's no question that we can keep them in a set area. Even though they do sometimes go across the road because there's so many of them, this really gives us a area to try to keep them in. So anybody else? All right. Paul, were you the one who wanted to make a motion?
I think it's a great idea. Permission, grant permission for Bailey's Bubble to use 3 parking spaces in the evening. And I didn't get the times of the year in the summer months. I just want to. What do you want?
Yeah, it's usually not a problem until July.
So
sometimes
June 30th
on a Saturday
through
night.
September, through through Labor Day, is that what you want? Or June 30th through when?
Yeah, I mean, there are some Saturday nights in June where we might need it, and then later in the season, as well a little bit.
How about Memorial Day to Columbus Day?
That definitely covers it.
Memorial Day to Columbus
And
Day
we
or June
wouldn't need
15th
to
to
use
Columbus?
it.
Memorial Day?
Memorial Day to Columbus Day.
Memorial Day to Columbus Day work for you?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So that's the motion. Move to
Thank
approve
you.
3 parking spaces.
Second.
Thank you, Dave.
Second. I have a motion by Paul, second by Dave. Any further discussion?
Just curious, did the sidewalk committee in their survey, wasn't one of the questions asked about parking spots being used by businesses?
May have, no. Mary's saying no.
No.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, I just didn't want to make sure, I wanted to make sure that we weren't
I think we were just not
bypassing
dealing.
a committee
No,
that if they were discussing that situation, and make
Side-
sure that, you know,
Yeah, the sidewalk committee was the sidewalk. We tried to stay where we're supposed to.
stay in our lane,
Stay in our lane. We'll
on
try
our
to-
sidewalk.
Yeah. All right. All those in favor?
Right.
Aye. Opposed? All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All righty. Next item is a designated police parking downtown Wolfeboro.
So Chief Warren approached me about a week and a half ago, wanting to discuss with the Board of Selectmen the possibility of placement of a dedicated parking space in the downtown for police officers. The thought process behind this is they certainly want to be able to have a greater presence in the downtown this summer, and they want to be able to as well have access to parking. As you know, we are stressed with officers right now, so being able to have a dedicated parking spot allows them to be on foot, but at the same time be able to have immediate access to a cruiser for response. Captain Livy's here to be able to speak on its behalf.
Okay.
That's about it.
Yeah, you pretty much said it perfectly. It's really our efforts to be more visible in the downtown area.
Captain, bring it
And
up.
it's a good,
Good. Thanks.
it's a good spot for it. So what we're looking for is to have a area or a spot, parking space, which we know is premium down there during the summer months. But we also know how hard it is to park down there. And us to be visible down there, our officers be able to park down there for calls for service and have a location where the officers, when they're walking the beat, they can actually see the vehicle still.
You want to explain the spot that you want?
Yeah, so the location is going to be on Railroad Ave, the first spot to your left near the water side, I know. So, but it's a visible spot, it's kind of central. So when the officers get away from the vehicle, it's centralized, so if they have to get back into the vehicle and leave, they can get there pretty quickly.
Board members, anybody have any questions for the captain?
Madam Chairman.
Yeah?
So is the nice parking space?
Thank you.
You're welcome. So is that for visibility or
Visibility.
would you
and
be
able to
keen
get-
on the parking space down near down at the end of Bradley's? Would that be okay? This is a high profile parking space. It's
And
good for
that's-
people that are pulling in that may be a little challenged to park.
Yeah, yeah, it's, I mean, a lot of it's visibility. You see a cruiser downtown.
Do we have a similar request that could come in this direction from the fire department?
I do not believe so.
It is a common thing if you go to other towns. They do have this in the downtown area.
I just know that last summer, the businesses downtown were really pleased with the amount of coverage they got from the police department.
Yep.
And I think it is a want of the community to see the police department, have them down there, see the officers. You know, I agree it's a important parking space, but I think it is a space that everybody sees that the
Yes.
police are there. And so I'm comfortable with it for that reason.
So-
Anybody else?
And what we would like to do is be able to work with, even get a sign and mark that area probably blue so nobody actually does park in that spot.
So I'm okay with that spot, but it was funny because I was talking to the chief, and I suggested a spot on the other side of Berkshire Hathaway between the post office and Berkshire Hathaway on that side. And the chief was like, that was kind of my thought first, but he acquiesced to the captain because the captain had reasons that he thought were better to have it in that location.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people who want to go quickly into the post office, and that,
Yep.
is a place that a lot of people use. That's the reason why I would go to this one. Anybody else, any comments, any questions? Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the use of the parking space, the first parking space on the left, going in on Railroad Ave, to be used by the police department.
Second.
Paul, okay. I have a motion by Brad, second by Paul. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, you
Perfect.
get
Thank
your
you.
turkey.
Thanks, Captain. Always great to see you, too.
Okay, the lease of a new groomer. Mr. Pinio, I think you have some news.
Yeah, so you have in front of you a packet regarding the concept of a lease purchase for a new, a used groomer for Abenaki ski area. In the memo to you, it outlines that we looked into this in 2019, 2020. However, at that time, the RSAs restricted such activities from being able to be authorized. However, in 2021, the legislature changed their opinion on this and rewrote the law, and as a result, capital reserve funds can now be used for the purposes of lease payments and lease purchases. To give a little bit of background here, the past 3 years, we've spent approximately $67,000 in maintenance for the groomer. The groomer has in excess of 13,000 hours on the machine. A new machine is in excess of $350,000. We had an opportunity to purchase one for $215,000. That machine had 2,600 hours on it, so it would have given us a significant amount of longevity, where we only utilize it for about 400 hours a year. Unfortunately, the machine sold today, so this is no longer an item for discussion.
Okay. Thank you so very much.
Well, that was an easy
Oh,
one.
that was good.
I'm assuming they're still going to look for a groomer?
We are going to continue to keep our eyes open for a groomer, and we anticipate, if we do not find anything, that we're going to definitely have to bolster our CIP in 2024 for the 2025 year, so that we can go to warrant and secure something going forward, because the maintenance costs are out of control, and it is causing downtime at the ski area.
Yeah, and I hope we redo our capital reserve spreadsheet to get prices more realistic so that we have justification
Correct.
for putting more in the capital reserve fund. Okay.
And on top of that, if I could,
Yeah?
and on top of that, so there'll be if I understood the proposal here, there would be a prepayment, and then we would be taking operating money to pay the lease. At some point, we're going to have to keep refreshing that operating payment, either in reserve or on the operating budget side. So when the time comes, and I know you got a lot of stuff here, when the time comes, I think we need to be clear as to what it's going to cost to, plunk down we'll call it, for lack of a better term, the deposit, how many periods until we exhaust the reserve, and then what the continuing obligation is going to be on the town budget on a go-forward basis.
And I guess...
that all ought to work out. It's a spreadsheet item. I'm sorry, Linda, go ahead.
I have a little bit of heartburn about the lease proposal for this particular piece of equipment. It is a specialty piece of equipment. It is a used piece of equipment. So guess what? It comes with a significantly higher interest rate than what we experienced when we purchased the latest fire truck, this interest rate was in excess of 7%.
And I'll bet you...
We also have reached out to a couple local lending institutions to see if they would give us any more attractive rates. We've yet to hear back.
I'll bet you our residual value on something like that is probably, yeah. Okay.
I was just told that the residual value was actually, they thought it was only going to be $3,000 or $4,000, and it could be up to $10,000 to $15,000.
Interesting.
I also, the last, doing some numbers, the last unit we got had about 7,000 hours on it when we got it from Cranmore. It was a 2001. We got it in 2007. We averaged 400 hours a year times 17 years, so we put about 6,800 hours on it. That lasted us for 17 years. With a new machine, they have a lot more horsepower than the old machines. You don't have to worry about rust rot or anything like that. It's usually metal fatigue. The machines now are built a little bit bigger and more robust, so they will last longer. We can probably do a 7-year lease and then have 13 years of good operation on it, so that it will end up pulling us about 20 years down the road.
It's all in a spreadsheet.
So it's
That'd be good.
It's something that if we're going to run a ski hill too, you have to have a groomer.
You got to do it.
Yeah, and I'm more into just paying for it. That capital reserve account, I don't want to just gut that. We have other things, compressors and other items at the ski slope, so we really need to look at it all and balance it out and decide what we have. And we have on our capital reserve 100,000 for a groomer. That thing's off. So we haven't been putting the right amount in, and we haven't updated the cost for the items, which we need to make sure we do, so that hopefully we can save and have the money in it next time when we have a big item. So I'd like to make sure we get all that balanced. Any other comments on the groomer? All right, go on. We have an update on the public safety building. Jim?
Okay. So I'll give you a quick overview of the public safety building project. To date, we spent $4.8 million on the project. We continue to move forward. We've experienced 4 change orders. The first change order that you see on the spreadsheet attached to this reflects $74,000. However, that change order conversation, when it took place, that was when we did the value engineering in the building and made some adjustments to different types of materials and whatnot. So that was a net. We actually saw an increase at that point of about $300,000 due to the steel costs, which we have discussed in the past. That brought the bottom line up of the contract. As we move forward, we are currently looking at 3 capital reserve funds in the future that we will need to leverage. One of those is a 2001, public safety capital reserve fund for the building. That's $54,000. 1999, parking lot fund, which has a balance of $24,000. They're actually scheduled to do base paving tomorrow. And dispatch equipment, which we have a balance of $58,000. That's a total of $137,000 in additional funds, which sit in a capital reserve fund at this time. As you're also aware, we have received a grant for the Emergency Operations Center to pay for 50% of the center and the generator. So that's a total of $102,000. The generator, and you'll see it in a few minutes, the generator is on site, and I believe it's scheduled to have a startup on the 16th of May. Additionally, the captain, I believe you may have seen his picture in this past week's paper. He was taking Congressman Pappas around the public safety building, and we're looking like we're going to be able to receive $1 million in grants for the public safety building from the federal government. So I'd like to thank the captain for putting the work into securing that. We also are looking at an additional grant for security purposes that could take care of cameras, fencing, and door strikes. We're reviewing that at this time. We do anticipate the possibility the need next year to come in front of the voters for additional monies for those soft costs. We have requested or put in the paperwork for the second half of the bond, so that will be coming in around August. And to date, bond proceeds, we've received about $120,000 in bond proceeds. Those have been accounted for in a standalone account so that we can ask the voters if we can utilize those to help pay for some of those soft costs and costs beyond the existing operating budget as proposed. I'll go through a few slides for you to give you an update of what's going on. So this is a picture of the front of the building. As I stated, they will be paving the front of the building tomorrow. As you look at the building toward the right, you see the staging. That's a stair tower that comes down from what would be the insides of Phase 1 on the second floor, which would contain the offices for the fire department and the bunk rooms, as well as the future space, which we'll show you a picture of later. One item that will need to be addressed in this in the future, where that staging is, we will have to at some point, it's been engineered into it, the pegs have been put into the concrete, but we'll have to put some sort of an awning toward the front of that. As you see along the roof line, that will all get crown molding at some point, which you'll see some pictures of a little bit later, and same thing with over the apparatus bay doors. This is a brief rundown of the budget, kind of what I explained, some of the variables we see. Hopefully we've run through all of the site work issues, and that should be resolved where we're paving tomorrow. Soft costs and final upfitting, and then we're still seeing escalation hit us as we continue to move through the weekly construction meetings. So if you recall, the project is broken into 3 phases. Phase 1 is all the way to the left. That's the project that's underway right now. Phase 2 would be the demolition of the apparatus bay, the middle building, and then Phase 3 would be the existing administrative wing being finalized. Base paving, the final grade today, paving tomorrow. They anticipate moving the fire department into the apparatus bay the week of the 14th, and then they'll continue working on Phase 1 while they start Phase 2. Scheduled to begin demolition of the existing apparatus bay the week of the 23rd, generator startup the 13th, and transfer of power from the existing power to the new system the week of the 20th. Phase 3 is scheduled to start in the fall to winter of 2024 with a 2025 completion. Again, this just shows you the Phase 1 a little bit closer, and I've taken a bunch of pictures here, and to the left you'll see the schematic drawing, and the arrows that you'll see is where the picture is taken from. So this is the apparatus bay from the library area. They're continuing to work through the concrete wash for the brick mortar, and window installation is taking place. As you can see in the upper left-hand corner of the picture, an idea of what the crown molding around the building looks like. This is a fully open building. You might wonder why it's so high. Well, one of the items we're not able to do at this time, the fire department is not able to raise their aerial in the apparatus bay to be able to service the piece of equipment. We now have the ability, once they are fully moved in, to raise the aerial and be able to service the ladder truck. Additionally, this will all be painted. It'll be painted with a dry fall paint, and you'll see an example of that shortly. This is a picture of what will be their gear room, where their turnout gear will be placed, lockers As you can see, there's multiple access points, including to the apparatus bay, so they have a direct connection, but it is located in a standalone room. This is what would be known as the day room. This is where the officers and firefighters would work, completing reports, taking telephone calls, etc. And then they would have immediate access to the gear room, to the apparatus bay, and any other areas. This is, again, in the area of that day room, looking back toward the apparatus bay. This is looking into the day room. One of the interesting parts about this, you look at that day room, you look at that concrete wall with the piece of plywood. We're actually repurposing the existing apparatus bay wall as one of the structural components of the building. So that is being salvaged as we do this. Moving forward, locker rooms, there are actually 2 locker rooms for the firefighters, male and female. The male locker room has 3 showers. One of them is ADA compliant. The females has 2, one of them being ADA accessible as well. This is a mechanical room showing the electrical. This will have an independent entrance so that people who need to come in and service the area can come in from the area of that yellow arrow, and be able to service. And they also have access to generator from that point. So it's tied together quite well. Additionally, they simply walk down the hall 2 doors, and they're into the day room of the firefighter's office. Here's the generator on site, ready to be started up here in a week. They called to order diesel fuel today. This is the garage space toward the back of the building. This is an example of what the dry fall paint will look like. This area has been painted with the dry fall paint. This area also, when we move into phase 2, we'll have a secured trailer in here so that the police department will be able to move their evidence into this location. This is the second floor. If you recall, one of the items that happened in this, we had a large area on the second floor where we could have done nothing and left it a bare roof, or we could have built it out as unfinished future space. And this is what that unfinished future space looks like. It's about 2,200 square feet, and it gives us access as well to the stairwell. That blue box to the left, that gives you an idea of where that stairwell is, and you'll see in a moment why that's so critically important. There is a lot of air handling units on that roof, so they will be able to access the roof from that future space without the need of a ladder in that area. Again, this is an example of the crown molding you can see, and the siding, the hardy board siding, which is being used in areas where it won't be brick. So that basically summarizes the update of the building. Moving forward, we will have a couple of days of shutdown for electric, where our dispatch will have to operate through Carroll County. We're working through the logistics of that right now, but the project is continuing to move forward. It's a little bit behind schedule, but we're hopeful to be able to gain some time when we get into phase 2. Try to answer any questions you might have.
Right.
At all these different construction phases, are we looking at using as much maintenance-free material on the outside and the inside of the building so that we limit the maintenance costs going further down the road?
Well, I think everything requires maintenance. So the brick, it should be a matter of washing it and repointing the mortar as required. The hardy board siding, it should be just a matter of pressure washing. We have used high-end Marvin windows, so hopefully we have no window issues. One of the things that we did do in a lot of the areas where the block wall is. It was looked at by the staff, and instead of using square blocks, they used the bullnose blocks in those areas to be able to reduce the sharp edges. And I don't think that there is a whole lot of areas that would have materials that aren't reinforced. It's a well-designed and well-built structure.
Well, I know it's well built. I've seen the plans and everything. But that's good. I have Harvey windows in my house also, and my whole house is made out of easy to maintain materials, so that it's been power washed twice in 15 years, and it looks like the day it was built. And that's what we have to look at going forward. Architectural is nice, but you also have to make it maintenance free.
Correct.
Paul?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thanks for the presentation, Jim. So this is catch-up, because I've been away for a bit. So how does the change order process work? Does it come to the Board of Selectmen to approve those 409,000, or do you approve it? How does that work?
I approve it.
You approve it? Okay. And then the contract, so that's 409,000. So you look at the business justification, and that expectation of how we fund that incremental money is, how do we do that?
Those, number one, we have a bottom line budget. Number two, we have these 3 existing capital reserve funds. And number 3 is if we end up seeing overages, we will have to go to the voter and say, here are some of the monies that we will need to be able to complete the project.
Okay, so the change orders you got, and then we're gonna draw off the capital reserves, and then we'll ask the voter to potentially top us off. And then the second is, you said there's some soft cost. I mean, is there anybody swagging what those could be, percentage-wise, dollar-wise?
So we have an idea of what the soft cost items are. Mm-hmm. The fire department administration, in conjunction with the police department, are going through item by item to create those estimated costs.
And when those come in,
forward.
you'll approve them, the board approve, how's that going to work?
Number one, I need to make sure that we have the money to be able to do it. And if we have the money to do it, I approve it, or we go forward and we ask the voters, is this something you want to approve or not?
Am I correct, Jim, we had a contingency amount, and that when you do these change orders are coming out of that contingency amount?
So that contingency amount, I can't pull it right off the top of my head, but when we got that increase in the steel price of $300,000, that ate up about 50% of that contingency.
Yeah, that was packed in the 11.8, right?
Yeah. So really, if that is, these change orders we see here just about takes care of the rest of it. So we had a certain amount in there.
Now, I'm just trying to figure out how we, it sounds like you had a contingency, you're going to draw that down, you're trying to get some grants, draw that down. That's good. At some point, you're going to have to figure out what the increment is, and hopefully it's the increment before you approve it, so that you can decide whether the voter approves it or whether you just say, we can't do that, right? There's a no is no maybe in this discussion.
And we've already backed some items out. I mean, we are putting in the infrastructure for the building security camera systems.
Yeah.
However, we backed out $90,000 worth of security cameras. We have backed out, we went with a lower grade of countertop in some of the finished areas. So, there's going to be some challenges as we move forward. But at the end of the day, I think we're going to have a wonderful building that's going to last us for a heck of a lot longer than 50 years. If you do have an opportunity, you can go down and take a look at the building. And I think you'll be quite surprised at the size of this structural steel. It's massive.
And one last one, if I could, Jim. The architect, I know that as I was heading off to other places, we were changing the architect. So what did we buy for $938,000 from the new architect? A redesign? Was it redesigned?
Yeah, so that was one of the interesting things when we picked this architect. We put out the RFP for architectural services, and I think we received 3, maybe it was 4 bids. The interesting thing about this architect that we picked, Banwell, they gave us an upfront cost that was much lower than the other firms. The other firms gave us, okay, it's going to cost you $400,000 to get to this point, and then we will have additional costs when the project's approved, coming in to deal with requests for information, change orders, design changes, etc. Banwell, they locked us in at $25,000 for the cost to do the design work up until approval. If we received approval, then we went to the contracted amount of $900,000, which at the end of the day, it was essentially the same pricing. It was just a completely different model.
No, okay.
Where we didn't have the risk up front. The risk was if the voters approved the budget.
And again, a selfish question, because I'm trying to catch up. Who did the estimating of the build? Remember we were talking way back when that we were going to get an outside estimator. Did Banwell provide the estimate, or did somebody else?
CCI provided the estimate.
So the person that's building it gave us the estimate of the build.
The general contractor, correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I just have one. We hear that we very well may get $1 million. That will reduce the amount the taxpayer pays. It doesn't increase the amount we can spend, because we only can expend the appropriation. So I want the people, the taxpayers, to know that $1 million is $1 million less that they're going to have to pay.
Yeah, that $1 million, because of the timing of it, would, if we get it, it would actually go to the unassigned fund balance. It would, because we're already working to get the second installment of the bond, so we can't back that $1 million.
Bond it for $1 million less, and then come back because if we get it, then you don't have the interest on $1 million.
I can ask the question. I think it's going to be a challenge with timing, but I can ask that question.
I think it's worth asking it, because if you don't have to bond it, and I thought that was kind of why we split the bond up in 2.
We did.
Was in case something like this came through, that we wouldn't have to go out on the bond. If you put it in the unassigned fund balance, you're still paying interest on that $1 million because you had to borrow it.
Yes, or the board could take and assign it toward that debt. But I hear what you're saying. I'll ask the question. I think I'll ask the question.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the Lakes Region Model Railroad Museum update. Jim, do you have anything on that?
I'd like to table this until the 15th, please.
Okay, as a board in agreement, we'll table it?
Yep.
Okay. Next item is amendment to the temporary event application. This was brought back to us by Amy, and as you go through, you can see it is the yellow markings on page 5. She added the word in Park and Recreation, second sentence, the word center. And then she added to the application a section for the office to use, which was not on the first application, which will make it easier for her to keep track of where we are with the temporary event permits after we've approved them. So does anybody have any questions or comments?
Comment. I want to thank Amy for doing this.
Hey, can I have a motion?
You may, if I could do it. Move to amend the temporary event permit application as recommended by Ms. Muccio.
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion by Paul, Brian by second. A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All righty. Back to our Board of Selectmen Rules of Procedures, and we amended it. And this is a draft, because when we talked about it last time, people wanted to take a look at it before we even took a vote. Tonight, if we think this is in the final form, we make a motion, and that we vote on that motion at the next meeting. So it's on page 4, again, it's in yellow. It was the conversation regarding the process for public input. I did get an email from the secretary who has had some problems hearing and knowing how to spell the names. She would like us to add back in having people sign up, but I just thought I'd tell you that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
One other question or comment I noticed reading through this, on the same page 4 there, just above the highlighted section there, 9 and 10, Town Manager Report and Committee Reports. I did notice before if that had been reversed or not, because we've typically had it the other way in all our agendas ever since I can remember anyway. We always had committee reports, then Town Manager Report. Not that it really matters, but I don't know if somehow it got changed in there
Or we get changed on the agenda.
or it got changed on the agenda eons ago.
Yeah. Well, what do people want to do here? We got two choices. We can change the order of the agenda and make a motion, or we can say, all right, we want to make this change. It'll come back as a draft again, and then we'll have to move on. It could take us a couple weeks to get it through, but we
think it might be easier just to change our agenda to match this, so we don't have to put this off and
Or you
bring
could
it
do
back
it as
again.
amended.
Pardon?
You could do it as amended.
As amended?
But the
No, you-
rules?
The rules, yeah.
Yeah.
No, the rules say that we need to make changes. Our rules in this says you make the changes, and then you come back the following thing to prove it.
Make the changes and come back.
Yeah, because we
couple
use
weeks.
we use the agendas more than we use this.
Well, do we feel like it makes that much different if the town manager comes before us giving committee reports?
No.
I don't think that makes any difference at all.
I don't either. I just
Yeah.
want to bring it because I saw it there, so.
Good catch.
Leave it.
Oh, you're welcome.
We'll just leave, are people comfortable just leaving it the way it
Yep.
is? And
Yep.
we'll just flip those two on the agenda. That's all it is. All right, so somebody want to make a motion to approve this at the next meeting?
So move.
Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Dave, second by Paul. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. I will talk to Amy about that change.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the Wolfeboro Bike Trail status update. And I asked Amy to put in your packet the license agreement that we had, so everybody is up to date on the license agreement and what we agreed to. I also had her, just because we need to remember what we were talking about. I thought it would help Paul get caught up on where we were and what the decisions were. So that's why I had those added to the packet. But this is on the agenda because Brian wanted to talk about it. So Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, so I had a meeting, well, not a meeting, an impromptu conversation with Lenora Clark, and she said that the Fernal Crossing had a lot of damage in it from the 2 storms in April. I abut Sewell Woods, and I saw lots of damage in there also. They're still just barely getting the stone dust trails cleaned up, and the rest of the trails are still down. So I just thought that we should decide who is going to go up and inspect our trails, make sure the trails are in good condition, who is going to report with the Single Track Alliance to find out what they need to do up there, what they can do up there, what they're going to do up there for any repairs to get the trails open this year. Other than that, I think it's just a matter of making sure if we're going to have these, that they're ready and available to be used as soon as possible.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How did we do it in the past?
What did you say?
How did we do it in the past?
This is the beginning.
No, we have trails out there. They get messed up in the bad weather. How did those things get fixed up in the past?
That's this agreement.
Yeah.
This is this maintenance agreement, and I think the concern is that we've had a few times when it hasn't been followed to the T. I mean, just put it that way.
Yeah.
And so the question is, and I'm going to pass this over to Jim. We have a staff person who's out there is going to do that, or?
So we had earlier this week, we had a meeting regarding the mapping that needs to take place at that location. Mm-hmm. And it's my understanding that a lot of the damage that has taken place at that location has already been cleaned up. Yes, we do have a staff person that I can absolutely assign to go out and look at that. I guess my question for you is, if he looks at that, what kind of a report back to you as the board would you like?
So we're going to have something that's kind of standardized. It's going to have to be that in the spring, an employee goes up and looks at the condition of the trails and makes sure that they're safe and able to be used. Then I think if there's a weather event in the summer, like we had some bad weather events last year, again, a staff member should go up there and make sure that the trails are capable of being used. I think that whatever staff member is going to be doing this for us needs to have a copy of the license agreement to understand the license agreement. They need to, if trails are going to be built, new trails, they need to be privy to the contracts and understand from the board what we expect to happen in the construction area. We ended up with a slight hiccup with the way one of the trails cut through the downhill ski trail, and we ended up with a hiccup with a bridge that was built when we had stated in meetings no structures. So the board needs to have better communication with whatever the staff person is that's going up there. We also had signs that were installed by Woodward and Curran up there. I believe that's who installed them. We need to make sure that those signs are in place. We need to know, I know that they were going to map them for us, so that employee should have a copy of that map to where those signs are located. We should make sure that they're not vandalized or damaged. So there is quite a bit for somebody to do with regards to this, this property. We do know that there were at least 2 or 3 individuals that were pulled out of there by fire and rescue last year with injuries. So we want to minimize the amount of injuries and the amount of things that can happen on those trails. Those trails can be very technical, and they're a lot of fun for a lot of people, but we have to, if we're going to have this asset, it's going to come with equal or not equal, but some liabilities involved too. You can't just throw a trail in the woods and think it's going to stay by itself.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
So I think I hear, assuming all of what was just recited is, good and the right thing to do and all that, I think I hear the request for, what's the name of the person who does that? And I don't know if we can do that now, but I think, assuming that all of the things that my colleague just said are important to know, the trails are busted, something's not right, something needs to get fixed up, and somebody from the town should be looking at that. So the question is, what's the name of the person? And maybe, town manager, we think about that and come back and answer the question.
Well, I think, to me, we got into this a license agreement. They are to maintain the trails, and we have the right to inspect the trails and the trail maintenance from time to time. I see that we should have a staff member who does that. All the rest of it is their responsibility at their cost. That's what we did this whole thing for. We did have the issue, and I think this is where Brian's kind of heading, is we gave them permission to build a new trail, and they were supposed to have flagged it. Prior to construction, we all were to agree on it, and the construction took place without the flagging. So I think, what I think is we just, whoever our staff person needs to go up there and go through the trails time to time.
Yeah, and when anything happens, we need to have good communication from the board and the town manager to that person on what's expected there. Because we did not have good communication when that new climb trail was being built. Because we knew what was supposed to happen, but our staff didn't.
Well, we need to make sure that person has the license agreement. I think Jim can do that, and he can talk to them about what didn't take place. And if we put a new trail up there, that agreement, because they have to come and get any new trail, they have to, by this license agreement, they have to get a written document to us. Jim takes it and gives it to the staff person, and there it is.
And a picture is worth 1,000 words. If the staff person goes up and says, "Oh, this kind of looks rough, I'm not sure," take a picture. Send it to Jim. Have Jim forward any issues that he sees to the board so that we can see if there's a problem. If we hire a contractor to work on this building, somebody watches him to make sure the job was done and done correctly. We don't just say, "Oh, paint that," and then walk away.
I think that's what this is, that person is. I think that's what we're talking about.
We need eyes on it. We need eyes on it like everything we do.
Yeah, I think we should have a staff person who goes up there from time to time and checks how it looks.
Yeah, it's a $270,000 asset. That's a valuable asset that the community can use.
Not to create too many high hopes and expectations, and 2 weeks ago we said, we want to put the functions of this town kind of on the bench and look at who's doing what and make sure that there's clarity and alignment. And I think this is one of these clarity and alignment things. I think my colleague is right, saying we pictures and all this kind of stuff. That's important stuff. But first of all, who's that person? And introduce that person to everybody. To your point, Linda, give them the contract. Say, get on out there and keep us posted on what's going on.
Any other comments? Any concerns? All right. Other business, we need to, talking about looking at our jobs and responsibilities, when would this board like to schedule the next work session? I know some of us have been working on our assignments, and I looked at the calendar and I was wondering how May 22nd would work. That's a Wednesday. It gives us some time to keep on working on what we have. We're right now the 1st of May. Jim's away, I think the next week, right? And then the following week we have a board meeting, and then the following Wednesday was when I am proposing that we may want to meet. Does that work for everybody? Anybody have an issue with that? 6:30?
6:30 on May 22nd?
Yep. All righty.
And are we noticing that as a Board of Selectmen's meeting or as a workshop?
We'll do it as a work session.
Work session.
And if for any reason we need, like we did last time, if we have any business, which I don't know of, we can always put in front of that, but it'll be mainly a work session.
Okay.
Okay. I guess I'm going to reverse the agenda because that's what our rules say. Jim, your report's up next, and then I'll let us do the committee reports.
Couple things. We did have a meeting regarding the trail mapping at the Abenaki Filter Bed Road area. We have a follow-up meeting in mid-May with the goal to have a baseline map I think it was the second week in June. So that is actively taking place. I have had a conversation with the library. As we all know, that there is some drainage issues at the library. I spoke with Allison about this today. There's a Horsley and Witten group who has done a lot of the work out at that location. They've come out with an estimate to be able to do the design services work. That estimate is $27,000 to do a design. That design will likely promote a warrant article in 2025 for upgrades to improvements to the library parking lot, which we know is problematic. Right now, that is estimated at $117,000. The question I have for the board, the library would kind of like to continue moving forward with this. As you know, under the MOU with the library, that's our responsibility. However, I'm not sure with being in the default budget this early in the year, I've got some concerns about engaging with this firm at this point because of the fact we're in default and that we have experienced a couple of brutal storms and we don't know what's going to happen this spring or this fall rather. And I'm a little bit shy about engaging with this, and I'd like to get some input from the board.
Madam Chairman?
Yep.
So unless I forget, I don't think I did, that the library project, including drainage, went through the planning board. You remember that one? I'm asking Brad.
We were presented with the overall plan as basically as a courtesy from the trustees.
And I remember that a member of the planning board raised some issues about the approving of the parking lot and the drainage. I'm wondering if that could be picked up, looked at, and go back to the people who built the facility and say, do we get like a 5-year warranty on this stuff or what? Because I remember, and I know the person's name, and I just won't mention it in public, was pretty amped up that the drainage and driveway and parking lot plan was in need of a second opinion. But I think the planning board did actually have minutes of the meeting when they did that. So I don't know whether we can do something about it, because we looked at it from the planning board as a courtesy, which is right.
I think the
or whether we're
work
stuck with
was
170
done
grand
as designed. That's my understanding.
I'm sorry, Jim.
It's my understanding that the work that was done on the site was done based on the design that was approved.
I think one of the problems happened that they didn't quite have all the levels right on the building, and therefore the handicap entrance is not in front of the door, it's down the way. And I think that's adding to some of the drainage and some of what needs to be corrected, plus the fact that when they put in the walkway to get from one side of the parking area into the roadway going in, they put something solid. And when they put this solid walkway, they stop the flow of the water underneath, and therefore the part of the drainage system doesn't work. So if that comes up, then that whole
retention pond gets plunked up or whatever the right term is.
Yeah, it is a I can't remember the name of what it's called.
I'm not trying to do a who shot cock Robin here, but the
infiltration trench.
There was a fair amount of very directed discussion on parking lot drainage by the planning board. I remember it pretty clearly. And as you get down this path, and maybe you and I can talk offline about maybe we can get our hands on some of that stuff. Because I do think that was brought up to the design build company.
Well, what we have now is a drainage that's not working.
That's right.
So they're trying to address that.
That's right.
And I think they had, I don't know, I think they had tried to go back and talk to the builder and stuff, and I think it ended up with us.
So now we're stuck with it.
I think so.
Well, we probably ought to ask whether we can not be stuck with it. Would be my advice.
I think we have, but.
I'll add that to the list.
Yep.
I'll talk to you afterwards. Let's see if we can get some clarity from what happened at the planning board.
Well, I understand that, but if it was built to the plans that were approved,
We'd have to find that out.
I don't know what the planning board conversation
Again,
means.
I'm not going to, I don't want to, make it a drama here, but I think that there was some concern that the plans that were put forward and what actually was built was different, particularly on the drainage side. I'll research that for you.
Anything else, Jim?
No.
Nah. Okay. I'm going to start down this end this time with Dave, and we'll head this way.
The only meeting I had was with the Friends of Abenaki.
Okay.
And quite a bit of that conversation had to do with the groomer, which I just found out. I thought we had an agreement with the company. That's what we were told the night of the meeting. And now find out tonight it's been sold. So that was, yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, is that right? It was explained to me that another salesman at the location didn't understand that there was kind of a handshake agreement and put it available for someone else.
All righty. I'll do my next. CIP committee met, and we reviewed the updated CIP project submittal form. Each year we review how it worked the year before. We made some changes to that. I went to the Friends of Pop Whalen meeting. The library trustees have been meeting, and their programs and the building use has continued to increase. I worked with Paul on our job descriptions. We worked on sewer and water. I met with a working group from Wolfeboro Waters to review the 19-Mile Brook environmental report today, which was paid for by Wolfeboro and Tuftonboro, and that's all I have.
The only meetings I really had was last night. We actually met here to view a presentation by New Hampshire Municipal Association, was it?
Correct.
Put that on, about the default budgets. There's good information on that. It was definitely worth coming in and seeing, and I think that was the only committee meeting I've had since my last report.
Paul?
Thank you. Yeah, I was at the default budget meeting last night. That was great. It was actually, I think Brian made a comment that said anytime you can learn a little bit, that's a good thing, and it was a good thing. I'm trying to get myself up to speed with our council on because I think I'm going to be in front of the Breeze Line people on our contract and the obligations of our contract. I have spoken to their federal reg person already, so we're moving down that. And I'm trying to get myself up to speed on negotiation materials for the upcoming 2 contracts. I'll get my arms around that one as well. Other than that, no other meetings have been called. Thank you. Oh, wait a second. Linda and I did work on functions and organization and
Tasks or responsibilities or
whatever. And the next thing we're going to pick on is highway. Bring it on.
Bring it on.
I think it's a great exercise. I mean, I really do. We're laying out, what tasks need to get done. Are they planning tasks or do tasks? Pretty easy.
So Dave and I worked on town manager and finance.
Oof.
And we started digging in a lot of material. And I went to the default, of course, the default budget webinar. And I was glad that it was more informative than I thought it would be. Maybe we should have visited it before we ended up in default budget, but it's good to know where we are now in what we have to do. And if it happens again in the near future, we'll be a little bit clearer on it. And Jim said he was going to do a follow-up and find out if any of the legislation had changed in the last year and a half to see if there's anything else that we need to follow.
Okay.
Just for clarification,
Yes.
I was also at that meeting last
So
night.
we all were. Yes, we all were
We
there.
were all eating popcorn.
And I did work with Brian for some time on which we will get back to.
Okay. All right. Any questions from the press? Jim is, oh, here she comes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I don't have any questions at the moment. I will say that there's no picture showing on the screen, so I went to live meeting so I could see it, and then that cut out. So I don't know what happened there. Just a few little technical difficulties. But otherwise I've been able to hear, and I appreciate your reports. Thank you.
All righty. Now it's public input. 3 minutes per person, not to exceed 15 minutes. Do I have anybody in the audience who'd like to give us public input?
Good evening. Bill Swafield, South Main Street, Wolfeboro.
Just take
I'll
it
hold
in. There you go.
I missed the last Selectmen's meeting, and so I missed Barry's presentation on the burying of the utility lines downtown. And so I printed out his presentation, which was good to see. And I was looking for a date on that. And the only one I could find was 2012, but with the exorbitant price that was in there, it's got to be a current price, but I'm not sure how old the presentation itself was. So it may have been on the books for a while. I'm not sure if anyone knows when that was done, but
That's a good catch.
the downtown business owners that I've talked to recently, and since the town buried the lines around the railroad station, have been really looking forward to getting these lines buried downtown, if and when we can do it. But with the water and sewer drainage project happening, my question is, are we going to have room for burying the lines on the main street? And I was able to get a question to Barry and Steve via email and got their reply. My question was, with the work on the sewer water lines happening, will there still be room for burying the utility lines in the future? Has there been any awareness and allowance for this? I did get some replies, and Barry mentioned that he had not seen the engineered plans for the downtown water project, and he was doubting that the utilities was identified within that design plan. Steve mentioned that after he looked over the set of the proposed sewer and drainage work, that the only place he could see to run it is in the sidewalks. And he felt the north side of the sidewalks, where there's a duct bank now, it would not be appropriate, so that would just leave the south side. And he couldn't speak to couldn't speak to the feasibility of that. And then Barry had another comment that he felt the biggest obstacle with looking at the sidewalks would be the vaults, the 9 vaults that would have to be put in. And the width of the sidewalk is wide, the vaults are wider than the width of the sidewalk. I did see Steve today and talked to him briefly, and we were talking about the south side sidewalks, and he felt that with the width only being 5 feet wide, you'd need to probably go into private property to be able to do it. But his final comment on the emails that went back and forth, he said the concepts for the sewer and drainage that are being done, the concept is done, but the plans are not. And he said, if this is something we want to proceed with, we need to move on it before the next phases are complete so it can be included in the design, or even if it's possible to build. So to me, that sounds like a little wiggle room about maybe moving something out there to make sure that down the line, when the utility poles wear out, and they will, that this option can still be available. And that's my main concern, is that when we get down, obviously we're not doing anything this year, and we won't be able to put it in with the water lines, or the sewer lines next summer, because it's too late and the cost seems to be prohibitive. But there are ways of getting grants and things like that. We got the project here with the water and sewer drainage system from the Infrastructure Act, and who knows what we could do in the future. Weirs Beach has already done theirs down along the Lakeside Avenue downtown, Weirs Beach. They did theirs in 2017. Old Orchard Beach buried their lines years ago. And if you've been to Concord lately, you know that their project took a while, but it was a huge project on the main street down there, and it's really nice now. So my question is there time to look at the plans to be able to adjust them possibly for this to be happening in the future? And the bottom line is, who would do this? Who would go find that out? Because it doesn't seem like any of us know if it's possible. So we need to find someone in the town, whether it's one of the boards, one of the planners, the town planner, whether it's town manager, whether it's you, the Board of Selectmen. But one of you guys, one of you boards, need to come up with a way to find this out before it's too late. Because when it happens, we don't want to be caught with our pants down. Why didn't we plan this 20 years ago? Why didn't we plan this 10 years ago? Now that the lines have to be replaced, oh, we can't do it. It's not going to look good. So I think we need to come up with an answer to see if we can do it, and if we have to adjust, maybe we still have time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have somebody else who'd like to give us some public input?
Hi, Bobby Budman. I just wanted to point out again that on your agenda, and an item you talked about was a recreation item, our recreation Wolfeboro bike trails. Again, we're micromanaging something that we have 4 full-time people in that department. And wow, wouldn't it be great if we use these bike trails and actually have programs on them? Actually have an instructor there instructing our children out there. And this is another recreation committee, but now we have Jim, who you're asking him to get a person to go look at recreation bike trails. So I am, again, just up here going to ask, it is time for a recreation committee. It is time to put together a group of people to look at how we're programming and using our recreation resources in this town. Thank you.
Do I have anybody else who'd like to give us public input? Seeing none, can I have a motion to go into non-public?
I'll make a motion, we go into non-public.
Second.
Brad, second. Dave?
Yes.
Linda's yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all for coming.